of the heart flows the issues of life. And many of these issues stem from one's emotional, mental, and spiritual condition. Such issues may oppress, stifle, and even stagnate one from living a healthy and fulfilling life. So how does one progress past such issues and achieve a state of emotional, mental, and spiritual healing? There's help, so open your heart and prepare your mind. It's time for healing to take place in your life. You're in tuned to Talking with Dr. Toy, a holistic approach to emotional healing. And now, your host, licensed professional counselor, Dr. Toy Lisa Mitchell.
It's just me and you. I feel so lost, 'cause I don't know what to do.
Well, good Sunday morning. Thank you so much for tuning in to Talking with Dr. Toy. Comes your way every Sunday. You know what I always want to do? I always want to give you my purpose. My purpose is to provide a holistic approach to emotional healing. Therefore, my mission to provide a holistic and restorative therapeutic approach in addressing and resolving issues that adversely affect the emotional, psychological, spiritual, and physical well-being of individuals who desire to enhance their quality of life. I want to do a self-care check. How are you and what are you doing for self-care? What did you do for self-care this week? Remember this definition: the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness. So again, I hope you are taking an active role as we are nearing the end of this month. And guess what? We're headed into the 7th month of this year. So time is definitely flying by. And so my hope is that you are managing life and making that distinction between life managing you. And that takes some reflection, and that really takes some intentionality, right? Because as they say, life is lifing. And so how do we manage life instead of it managing us? One of the key aspects of that is taking an active role in protecting your own well-being and happiness. Also, this concept of community care, right? The power of collective caring. People committed to leveraging their privilege to be there for one another in various ways. And how I frame that simply is this: how did you show up for others, and how did you allow others to show up for you? We are not an island unto ourselves. It is so very important that we connect with others that will bring aspects of health and wellness in our lives, right? Because we also know the importance of boundaries, right? I was talking with someone today, and so not today, but this past week, where we were talking about appropriate boundaries with individuals in our lives. Because if we do not have those boundaries, sometimes what happens is that we do not fill our cup. We continuously give out, and we're giving out of our fumes. And so sometimes it just takes, hey, I know in some ways that I've been the one to show up for everyone else, but right now, here's what I need. And I know sometimes it can be scary, really expressing what you need, because you may have this fear. Will it be met? Will it be dismissed? Will it be minimized? Will I be rejected? So instead of experiencing the pain of that, we may hold in what we need. And here's the thing, we sometimes may not even know what we need because we are so disconnected from ourselves. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that today as we continue with talking about the emotional wellness checklist, right? So we're going to continue that today. And then, of course, this aspect of self-awareness. How did you show up for you, right? We know that when we are so other-centered that we do not focus in on ourselves, there's still this tug of war where we perceive this as an aspect of selfishness. That is selfish. That if I show up for myself, that means that I'm not considering others. And one of the things that I say is this, especially for those who have children and all the things, right? I'm not saying that you have to be the priority in your life. But what I am expressing is that to be a priority, right? There are things that we definitely prioritize, such as our children and all the things. But it is okay to be a priority in your life. Because if you are not taking care of your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health, then can you honestly say that I'm showing up as my optimal self within these relationships, within my community, within my family, and even for myself, right? And so it is not, I think it's definitely helpful for us to not demonize taking time for ourselves. And it extends more than just doing just the physical, but it encompasses this emotional wellness too. So I'm going to continue on with the checklist because I think this is a very powerful resource to really think about how am I doing with my emotional wellness. And so we talked about last time building resilience. We talked about that last time, ways to build resilience, right? And so today we're going to try to get through some of the rest of this checklist. And this is a checklist that was published by NIH, but I think it's very relevant that sometimes as we assess how we're doing, maybe having that checklist to connect to say, am I doing this? Am I doing that? So here's the second thing that's on this checklist. It talks about reducing stress, right? And so we think about stress. We always hear that, okay, this is the silent killer. And I've talked about that in a prior podcast. Stress is a beast and it can impact our health in ways that it impairs our functioning, and also too it can really definitely impair our physical bodies. And so it is important that we are recognized when we are stressed. It is important that I asked the question to that to someone about, do you recognize when you are stressed? And the person said, no, right? No, I don't recognize when I'm stressed, because sometimes we can operate at such a high octane level that we may think that it's normal to operate in that way, where we're operating from a stress response, and it's like, well, that's all I know. And so we begin to think just because that's all you know doesn't mean that is healthy for you. And so if you are one where you don't know when you are stressed, that denotes some disconnection with your system, right? And it also may translate into not really knowing what rest is or how to rest. And so when you don't know when your body is stressed, guess what's happening internally in your body, right? When we talk about high blood pressure and all the things, it is so important that you know when you are really stressed to the max. Now, I love the explanation. Here's the thing. It says this: everyone feels stressed from time to time, right? So it's a natural part of life. Stress can give you a rush of energy when it's needed most. But if stress lasts a long time, a condition known as chronic stress, those high alert changes become harmful rather than helpful. And so we've got to learn ways to cope with stress, right? Healthy ways to cope with stress. So what do we do? Well, one, what's happening with your sleep? And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. What's happening with your sleep? We need to make sure our bodies are getting enough sleep. I was talking to someone and they were like, I'm struggling remembering things. I feel like I'm on edge. I feel like I'm on edge most of the time. I'm anxious. I'm having these ruminating thoughts. And so one of the foundational things that we ask about is, okay, well, how was your sleep? Because we know that life is life and there are a lot of things going on, right? So we're not blind to that, but we do ask that foundational question. Well, how are you sleeping? Right? How are you sleeping? And the person said, well, I think I'm just getting maybe about 4 hours, maybe a night, maybe going to bed late, getting up early. And so one of the things that we want to realize is that sleep is one of the pillars to improve your mental and physical health. It's one of the pillars. It's one of the foundational things. So really assess, are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting enough sleep? And if you're not getting in that REM sleep, that is going to affect you mentally and emotionally and physically. It is all connected. Number two, what about exercise, right? Not all of us can get into the gym, but one of the things that I encourage is, if you have the capacity to do that, is walking or maybe getting outside if you're able to do that, to get some sun and all the things. What are some things that you're doing to kind of help relieve some of that stress? Right? I love, there's some shaking videos out there too, that how in many ways stress can get trapped in our bodies. So there's some things that we can do to kind of help our bodies. And again, this is about emotional wellness. It's all connected. Also too, building a social support network. That goes back to that concept of community care. We need people in our lives, especially people that are going to be helpful and not harmful for us, right? So being in a world where you feel like there's you, yourself, and I, that's a level of stress. Being connected in ways where you feel you can turn to people and they be there for you, and you're able to have someone that you can connect with who cares for you. The research indicates that just the perception of social support can really impact our mental health. Just the perception. So I really want to encourage you. And I know I can hear people saying, well, sometimes relationships are more trouble than they're worth. Listen, I hear you. And some people think, well, I don't want to be involved in the drama. So I'm just going to, stay stay disconnected and all this. And so in many ways, what you're doing, and I hear you, I'm protecting myself. However, relationships can also help us. When you are, and I want you to think about this, when you think about the extreme of things, and you may not have a balanced approach to thinking about it, you may have, to some degree, you may have a bit of a distorted perspective. Yes. And one of the things that you may want to process is that, am I drawing the right people? Am I drawn to the right people in my life, to people that are going to be helpful, right? Not perfect, because no one is perfect. And so instead of maybe shifting maybe the ways in which we show up in relationships, are really kind of our criteria for relationships, seeing, is this what I want versus what I need? So instead of assessing that, we just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Well, I don't need relationships. Well, research indicates that, yes, our life can be a bit more fulfilling when we do have healthy relationships. So I want you to think about that, having a balanced approach. And it can be scary opening yourself up to relationships when you've been hurt. And maybe that's a place where therapy can really help you walk through that, right? Instead of just negating that whole thing in your life. Again, even the perception of social support can help with regards to improving our mental health. Setting priorities, right? Some of us may get into this mindset that we can do everything all at once. And so we become very scattered, and that's what stress can do. We become scattered and so overwhelmed. So being able to take a step back and to prioritize, to say, okay, what is most necessary at this moment, right? I cannot do everything. So something's going to have to, take the back burner. And what's the priority? And being able to set priorities that are reasonable, right? Because sometimes we can have unreasonable expectations of ourselves and others. Being able to set priorities that are reasonable can give you a sense of mastery, and that can reduce some of that stress and strain. I love this part. I love this one. Showing compassion for yourself. I love that, because some of the stress that we are experiencing, I would wonder, is this what we're putting on ourselves? Are we expecting ourselves to be perfect, to be flawless, to do everything all at once with excellence at the expense of our sleep, of our health, right? And so some of us may have that powerful inner critic. You're stupid, you're dumb. And so we are striving to do things perfect. And because we're striving to do things that are perfect and maybe too many things, then that will induce stress in our system. So in what ways can we show compassion and grace towards ourselves? In many ways, I love this quote, right? I want to feel good about myself without having to earn it. Without having to earn it. And if the only way that I can feel good about myself is if I earn it, then that is not unconditional worth and unconditional love. It is based on conditions, and that can also induce stress. Also, relaxation strategies. These are some of the things that I'm encouraging people to implement on a consistent basis, just like you brush your teeth and all of these things. In what ways are you seeking to regulate your system? What relaxation strategies, whether it be diaphragmatic breathing, whether it be some grounding strategies, whether it be progressive muscle relaxation strategies, because we live in this world is stressful. So we need to realize that this world does have an impact on us. And so in what ways are we trying to regulate our system, right? We do it in our homes. When the weather is hot outside, what do? We turn the thermostat, right? And we turn it up, or turn it down to cool things off. So part of this process is that checking in with your system and doing the things that are necessary to relax you and to regulate your system. And then finally it says this: seek help, right? It is okay. I'm telling you, I know I keep saying this, and maybe you're tired of me saying this. It is okay to get what you need, to receive what you need. If therapy is what you need, go for it. Go for it. It's not weak to speak. It is not weak to speak. So get the help that you need. Not only that mental health, but also, right, going to the doctors, seeking out health coaches, dietitians, spirituality, making sure that we cultivating that relationship with God and fellowship. What those things will do for your system, it will help you navigate this world that is so stressful. So reducing stress. And we talked a little bit about this, getting quality of sleep, right? Quality of sleep. Listen, they say this: when you're tired, you cannot function at your best. Sleep helps you to think more clearly, have quicker reflexes, and focus better. So maybe if you're struggling with focus and all the things, that foundational question, how is your sleep? What are you doing? So going to bed and getting up each day at the same time. Definitely try that. And I know some people say, well, I can make up sleep. Not so much, right? Make sure that the place where you're sleeping, it's a quiet place, right? And it's comfortable and all the things. Limit the use of electronics. And one of the things I encourage clients to do is to relax before you get to bed. Engaging in some type of relaxation strategy, meditation, diaphragmatic breathing, like include that into your sleep routine. And again, most importantly, avoid alcohol before bedtime and stimulants like caffeine and nicotine. I know some people may drink alcohol in the evening because they feel like, okay, I've got to have a drink to kind of, to just slow down and all the things. And so, but one of the things that it does is that alcohol, your body is trying to metabolize that. So going to bed, so even though it may, in some ways, suppress some things, right? So it gets sleepy, but it may affect your quality of sleep. So reducing, so avoiding that before bedtime. And also, here's one of the things I encourage people to do as well, that if you continue to have issues with sleep, talk to your physician about that. Talk to your PCP. You may want to see, okay, is there some sleep apnea going on? Do I need a sleep aid like melatonin or something like that? But sleep is so very important to really protecting your emotional health. Also, too, being mindful. This is another one on the checklist, right? We talk about that concept of mindfulness. Basically, it's just the practice of being aware of what's happening in the present. What's happening or what's going on inside of you. What's happening around you. Right? I love what it says here. It means not living your life on autopilot. Becoming a mindful person requires commitment and practice. And I love that, commitment and practice. So what does that translate to? Time, being intentional, cultivating a time in your schedule where you can practice those relaxation strategies, where you can practice mindfulness. Some of the tips it states is to take some deep breaths, right? Again, exhaling, right? Some people talk about breathing through your nose, 4 count, holding for 1 second, and then exhaling through the mouth. Okay. Repeating that and making sure that you're breathing from your belly. Also, too, when you go walking, just notice your surroundings. Maybe notice the trees, the birds of the air, the sounds, being mindful and really connecting your senses around that, and being aware of your body, like we talked about, progressive muscle relaxation, or even doing a mental scan. Where am I holding stress in my body? Bringing attention to that. I know I was talking with someone and they said that they went for a massage, and they said that the person was like, oh my goodness, you are so tight in your shoulders. And the person didn't realize that I may hold a lot of stress in my shoulders, right? And so some of us may, experience digestive issues and all of that. And some of that may be connected to stress and anxiety and all of that. But being mindful of that, right? So I'm encouraging you to take that time. One of the things that I have encouraged people to do is that, can you give yourself 5 minutes? And I think I've said that's 5 minutes, and maybe start off 2 days a week where you really just sit and connect with, what am I experiencing, and engage in some type of relaxation strategy, right? Also, too, it talks about coping with loss. We all have experienced grief and loss. And so there may be some losses that you are experiencing. And remember, when we talk about grief and loss, it doesn't just necessarily mean someone dies. It can be a loss of something that took place in your life, maybe a relationship, maybe a divorce, maybe a job, maybe a friendship, anything that you've experienced where you've experienced loss. And so many of us, because grief can be uncomfortable and it can be painful, what we do is that we push that stuff down, we push it away, right? Because it's like, I've got to keep it moving, I got to keep functioning. And what do we always say, right? Those things that we don't deal with, they will deal with us. And so with grief, really take care of taking care of yourself and what that means, right? Maybe making sure that you're eating and that you're resting and taking and really talking again, that social support still comes, right? Talking to a friend about what you are experiencing, and yes, maybe considering professional support, joining a grief support group, right? And one of the recommendations that we make around people that are experiencing grief is try not to make any major changes or decisions while you're grieving, right? And so give yourself the time in order to grieve and to experience what you are experiencing. Also, too, just be patient. I think sometimes because grief is and loss is so painful, it's like we want to rush through it. We want to just we want to get onto the other side. And there's this concept that talks about growing around grief, where in many ways the grief remains, but our life grows around it. But giving ourselves the time, right, and the love and the patience, and making sure that we realize that grieving is a natural process of life. It doesn't mean that you're defective because I'm still crying or anything like that. Give yourself grace and compassion and cope with it, not bury it. And then finally, this last one on the checklist, we've talked about this before, but I think it's worth still mentioning: strengthen social connections. Right? Social connections, this is what it says. Social connections might help protect health and lengthen life. Scientists are finding that our links to others can have powerful effects on our health, both emotionally and physically. And look at this. Whether with romantic partners, family, friends, neighbors, other social connections can influence our biology and well-being. It's important. It really is important. And so I am encouraging you, don't dismiss this, right? And so part of this process talks about building strong relationships with your children, getting active and sharing in good habits with family and friends, right? And if you're a family caregiver, because many of us may be in the positions where we're caregiving for loved ones. And so making sure to ask for help from others, right? Not trying to be a brother soldier or a sister soldier saying, hey, I need a break. I need a break. Can someone help me? Right? I need a break. So that can help you as well. Just continue to take care of your emotional health. Also, too, maybe join a group that is focused on a favorite hobby that you have, such as hiking, reading, whatever that may be, right? And that's going to take time as well. What hobbies do you enjoy? Because I was talking with someone and they were like, I don't even know what I enjoy anymore. I really don't. And sometimes we can be in spaces where we're so disconnected from ourselves, we don't even know what we like to do anymore. And that comes back to that self-care, taking the time to make yourself a priority in your life. What do you like doing? Experiment, explore, and then maybe find a group that's safe, right? That you can partake of those things. Take a class to learn something new, right? I had someone who took a cooking class and really thoroughly enjoyed it, right? And some of the things that you can do as well is this. And I know life is busy, but maybe volunteer for things that you care about in your community or anything like that. Sometimes just having that space where you feel like, you know what, I'm giving back. And not only that, you may find some social connections in those activities as well. So if you're finding yourself in a space where you're like isolating and you're struggling to be around people, I know, people have different personality styles and traits where we talk about introversion and all that, right? I get that, but introverts can have social connections too. Doesn't have to be large crowds. It can just be a few people that you connect with. Is still healthy. So maybe these are some things that you can do. And here's the thing. Travel to different places and meet new people. Now, some of you may say, well, gas is so, I hear you. And maybe some of this is, you don't have to drive far, but maybe, or travel far. Maybe some areas that you've not been in your own city, you can look at those things to see if there's some different things that you can do. Because sometimes our lives get monotonous and we stay in the same cycle all the time. Maybe branching out to do something new, right? Going to a park during the day and just taking a walk or just sitting there in your car to enjoy the weather. You may never know who you may run into that can be someone that can join your social support group. Well, see, these are just a few things when we talk about that emotional wellness checklist. And my question for you is, how are you doing? As I read this checklist, building your resilience, reducing stress, getting quality sleep, being mindful, coping with loss, and strengthening those social connections, how are you doing? Were you able to check some things off of that list? Or when you look at that list, are you saying, oh my goodness, I may need to do more things, right? It's so important for you to take care of yourself, your whole self. All right. Well, listen, that's all the time that I have for today. Remember what I always say, relentlessly and intentionally pursue authentic and genuine relationships vertically with God, horizontally with others, and inwardly with yourself. Maintain and sustain a keen sense of awareness and ongoing discovery about self as well as others. Take good care of you and engage in things that are helpful for your mind, body, soul, and spirit. And remember, out of the heart flows the issues of life. Let's continue to talk about it and continue our journey towards emotional healing. Until next time, bye-bye.
So I need to talk.
You've been in tuned to Talking with Dr. Toy, providing a holistic approach to emotional healing with your host, licensed professional counselor, Dr. Toy Lisa Mitchell. Please connect with me at talkingwithdrtoy.com or Facebook at Talking with Dr. Toy or email talkingwithdrtoy@gmail.com. I would love to hear your story and hear your heart regarding the issues of life you may be experiencing. Remember, out of the heart flows the issues of life. Let's continue to talk about it. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for listening, and please join me next week for Talking with Dr. Toy.